Hey, welcome to the Danger Zone. It's Ashley. Everything in this video can be found on a public domain. Lots of love and many blessings your way. Thank you. You know who you are. I appreciate you so much. We're talking about some pretty sensitive stuff in this video. Just wanted to warn you. And before we go any further, I just thought maybe I'd give you a little piece of my history. From my earliest memory up until I was nearly 10 years old, I was molested frequently by a family member. It was so confusing because everybody loved this person and I adored this person. He was bulletproof and 10 foot tall, not to me, but to everybody around me. And I loved him, you know. I just thought he was the coolest uncle in the world. And I was so confused. And in 1985, we moved to Germany. And that's what stopped that molestation, because he was not a dependent of my parents. They were in the military, so he couldn't come along. And for the first time in my young life, I remember feeling so free. I didn't have to worry. I didn't have to do things I found absolutely revolting. He has since passed away. He was murdered. But 2 weeks prior to his death, he kept calling me, and it was very out of character for him. And during that time, I was a young mom. I was working all day, going to school all night. I was tired. I couldn't figure out, why is he bugging me? And finally, he asked me for forgiveness. And I have totally forgiven him. And I know for a fact that today he's with God, because shortly after his death, I had a very vivid dream, and I seen him standing in the light of God. Arrived back in the States towards the end of 1989. My grandparents kept us in private schools most all of my life. Before we left to go to Germany, in the private school system, my brother had met his best friend. And his parents and my parents became close friends. My parents had full trust in this family. We went to church with these people. Like I said, we were in and out of, different private schools with them. And this family is a pretty big deal even to this day in the Panhandle. They own a golf company that's nationally known, internationally known actually, and several construction companies. Long story short, one night, the older of the children belonging to this family, he's well into his adulthood, decided he wanted to take my brother, my best friend, and myself to play goofy golf. I found that strange, but I was just a young teenager. Let's go. I'm ready just to get out of the house. And my brother's there, so, I felt completely safe. I didn't think twice. And my best friend at the time was 14, like I was, and she had this major crush on him, and I said to her, before we even left the house, he's grown. That's kind of nasty. That's how naive I was. I guess I didn't know her well enough at that time to realize she was not, still a virgin. I was a virgin, and she was talking like really loose talk, and I remember saying, Krista, don't do anything with him. He's grown. Stay a virgin. How goofy was I to think she was a virgin just because I was a virgin? So anyway, later that night, he took us to the clay pits. It was a couple miles from my house. In the back of his truck was a cooler full of beer, and he passed us all around a beer. About 40 minutes passes, and it was getting close to, Krista had to be home at a certain time. And he throws the keys to my brother, who was 15 at the time, didn't have a license. And he said, go ahead and take Krista home. I'll sit here with your sister. I didn't want to sit there with him. I figured, let's all go. What's the problem here? The excuse he used was the fact that he had been drinking, and he didn't want to be in the vehicle with my brother having no license, driving people around. Still, I felt like I should have went with my brother. Anyhow, I don't know how I ended up staying behind, but I did. It wasn't 5 minutes after my brother left with Krista in this man's truck that this man just pounces on me and completely rapes me. And I was a virgin. I remember walking home afterwards, and my exact words were, game on, God. I was real angry. It really messed me up for a long time. It took a while for me to shake being angry at the world, being angry at God, really. I say all of this to say I'm very empathetic to sexual abuse. I would never call somebody a liar if, they told their story. Saying that, let's get on with it.
I was young, I was scared, I knew these people were powerful. I didn't know what would happen if I said no. I didn't know what would happen if I reported them. That 16-year-old girl just let it happen. And that was how I got into the abuse with Jeffrey and Ghislaine.
Virginia Roberts was working in the spa at Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago club in Palm Beach when British socialite Ghislaine Maxwell introduced her to multimillionaire Jeffrey Epstein.
The training started immediately. I mean, it was everything down to how to give a blowjob, how to be quiet, be subservient, give Jeffrey what he wants. A lot of this training came from Ghislaine herself. And being a woman, it kind of surprises you that a woman could actually let stuff like that happen, but not only let it happen, but to groom you into doing it. And then there's Jeffrey who's telling you, I want it this way, no, go slower, and don't do that, and do this. You're just thrown into a world that you don't understand, and you don't know how to, you're screaming on the inside, and you don't know how to let it come out. And you just become this numb figure who refuses to feel and refuses to speak and refuses, all you do is obey. That's it. And eventually it led to, well, now we're going to experiment and we're going to try you with another guy and see how you go. So they sent me to an island with a professor, and I basically had to do what I did for Jeffrey for him. So it's very private. It's the perfect world for a billionaire getting away with what he was doing. He could hold big parties there and have huge orgies there, and nobody would have any idea what was going on because it was so quiet and so protected. It started with one, and then it trickled into two, and then so on and so forth. And, before you know it, I'm being lent out to politicians and to academics and to people that royalty.
Roberts claimed in an affidavit the two of the men that Epstein lent her out to were attorney Alan Dershowitz and Prince Andrew, the Duke of York. Dershowitz and Prince Andrew have both denied any involvement with Roberts. A judge later struck Roberts' affidavit from the court record, but the ruling did not address the veracity of her allegations. Dershowitz said he was nonetheless vindicated. Logs from Epstein's private jet, nicknamed the Lolita Express, show a host of high-powered politicians, academics, and celebrities.
It's called Lolita Express for a reason. That was a vessel for him to be able to abuse girls and get away with it without anybody being alarmed or any alarm bells going off. It was all the same no matter where you went. All Jeffrey cared about was, go find me more girls. To me, still to this day, it is my biggest shame that I carry around that I will never get rid of. And I'm really, really sad that I brought other girls my age and even younger into a world that they should have never been introduced to.
At age 19, Roberts said that she was sent to Thailand to take a massage course and to pick up a girl for Epstein. Instead, she fell in love and moved to Australia, where she and her husband lived with their 3 children.
I escaped. I called Jeffrey to let him know that I was not coming back and I was not bringing the little Thai girl back. And he said, you know what? Have a nice life, and hung up the phone. And that was it. And I thought, I'm off the hook. I'm off the chain. I can go. I can live free. 2007, I was pregnant with my middle son. And I get a phone call from Ghislaine one day in Australia. I'm in Australia. I was like, how the hell did she just find me? Like, I've been out of their life for so long. What's going on? She's like, have you talked to anybody? Have you told anybody what's happened? Like, have you reported us or anything? I said, no, I haven't spoken to anybody. Okay, good. You stay like that. You stay quiet. The next day, Jeffrey calls me with his lawyer on the phone. And he asks me the same questions. Have you talked to anybody? Are you going to report me? Are you going to talk to anybody? And I'm like, where is this all coming from? Like, what is going on? The next day, I get another phone call. And this time, it's from an FBI agent. Like, hi, I'm blah, blah, blah from the FBI. Have you given Jeffrey Epstein a blowjob? Did you have a shower with Jeffrey Epstein? Did you ever bring any girls over for Jeffrey Epstein? I'm like, I don't even know who you are. I mean, unless you can come over here and show me some official documentation that says that you're with the FBI, I am not saying a word to you. And about 6 months later, I get a knock at the door, and it's the Australian Federal Police. It was like 12-page document about Jeffrey Epstein and what he had done and how, I was a victim and they've identified me as one. It takes a long time to start the healing process. I mean, I will never heal. There are pieces from me that can never be put back together. It takes so long to get to a point where you're able just to speak about it. I mean, it took me having a daughter and looking at this beautiful, young, innocent baby to say, I want to speak out about it now. If we can make that point across, that doesn't matter how rich you are, it doesn't matter how powerful you are, there are girls out there that will speak up, and I don't care if it's 10 years later or 15 years later, whenever you're ready to do it, you do it, and you protect the ones that are younger than us. You protect the ones that we didn't protect before. These guys will get it in the end, because us girls are not going to sit here and just let this keep happening.
And I want to say before I go any further that I get that we all react differently to different situations. We all handle things completely different from one another. I've watched her interviews, like every one of them. I've really researched all of this because I was so empathetic and still am towards whatever she's gone through. I can totally relate to being mistreated and totally abused, sexually exploited. I can absolutely relate. But at the same time, there's a few things in her testimony, in her story, that I have been hung up on. And guys, I am not at all a fan of the royal families, especially Andrew. So I would never come out swinging the bat in his direction in his defense. For example, she said that she lived under their control, Ghislaine's and Jeffrey's. She was really afraid she was doing what the 16-year-old Virginia just accepted and had to do, including scouting out, other young girls, because she said she'll never be able to forgive herself for doing that for them. Heard a couple of versions of her story, and one was, she raced over to her dad and said, look, Dad, who works also for Trump at the country club, hey, I just got offered this good position and I'm going to make money. And, he's like, that is so cool, blah, blah, blah. He was as excited for his daughter as she was for herself. He found no problem in it. So when she didn't return home, why did he not go and say, hey, look, I know that you were the last person with my child. I don't understand that aspect of this story. Another part of her story that I just cannot understand is when they sent her over to Asia. They sent her solo, all by herself, not with a goon, not with, Ghislaine or another female. She was there all by herself. That's a huge risk for Epstein and Maxwell to take, in my opinion. This woman could have at any moment, out of their presence, blown the whistle. And according to Virginia, she's so petrified of Epstein and Maxwell, and she's under their full control. So she's over there with a pocket full of money, and they're putting her up in a, what I assume to be a nice place. And she knows that her mission is to find a young China girl and bring back to them. Also taking a massage class. So in 3 days' time, she finds her now husband, falls in love, and decides to pick up the telephone and call Epstein and say, I'm not coming back. Sorry, I found who I wanted to be with. So I'm just letting you know. Epstein turns around and says, well, have a nice life. And that was it to the conversation. Not, hey, you better not speak. You better not say anything. You better not blow our cover, blow the whistle, tell a soul, or I'll hunt, no threats, nothing. She said out of her own face, He said, "Have a nice life," and he hung up the phone. And shortly thereafter, she's married, and they move off to, happily ever after. Does that not, sound funny to y'all? It does to me. Considering she is the pin to their grenade. At any time, she can, rat them out and blow up their entire situation. I mean, we're talking politicians, doctors, celebrities. These are huge public figures that, are involved with Epstein. In sex trafficking, child trafficking, human trafficking, sex slavery. Huge. All it would have taken was for her to say one thing to one person of authority, and it would have come crashing down sooner than what it has already. Now, please don't misunderstand where I'm coming from. In no way am I saying that never happened. The Epstein situation, the child trafficking, the sexual slavery, all of that stuff. I very much feel like it has definitely happened. Question why she felt she needed to pick up the phone and call and allow him to know, what her future plans entailed. Why did she feel like she needed to tell him anything? If you were so afraid and under complete control of his, I would have said, hey, I ain't calling nobody. He'll never know where I'm at. I'll never give him the chance to hunt me down. As far as he knows, I'm out scouting a young China girl, and I'm being a good masseuse student. Next thing we know, she's getting a phone call from Ghislaine, who just simply asked her, have you spoken to anybody about, what you did, what your part was in our world? No, nobody. Jeffrey calls. Have you said anything about anything to anybody? No, what's going on here? Okay, following those two phone calls is an FBI agent. Have you done this? Have you done this? Have you done that with Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell? And out of her own face, she admits that she tells this FBI agent, until I see physical proof as to who you are, I'm not saying a word. Don't get me wrong, like I said in the beginning, I know we all handle things differently. He's willing to answer Ghislaine Maxwell's questions, not cuss her out, not hang up the phone, not say, we've got to move, I've got to change my number, they're on to us. With Jeffrey, if I had 5 minutes with my rapist, I can't tell you what I'd do. If I told you here, oh my God, I'd be probably picked up before midnight. And if somebody was to call me, especially from the FBI, it could have been Joe Blow. I don't care. Presenting yourself as an FBI agent, I'm going to tell you everything. I sure as hell am not going to sit back and question your credentials. You feel me? It was not until somebody from this federal police department approaches her and says, hey, we have discovered that you are, in fact, an Epstein victim, that she herself decided to come out as a victim of Epstein's. So much a victim that her dad never questioned her whereabouts when she didn't come home. So much a victim that she decided that she was going to call and tell Jeffrey, hey, I've fallen in love. You're on your own. So much a victim that she didn't even think about hanging up on Ghislaine. Instead, she answers her questions. Same with Jeffrey. Yet she has it out with the FBI person. What's going on here for real? So it took them, titling her a victim, deeming her a victim, that she decided to step up and be a victim. And being a victim of Epstein's has paid off very well for her. And I'm not saying she came out just for the money. It's opened a lot of doors for her. She has since started an organization, and I think it's fantastic. That helps other sexually trafficked people. It's wonderful. As far as her bravery goes, I give her mad credit. She's not afraid to show her whereabouts at any time. Had it been me and I'm coming out spewing all sorts of, factual information that could be absolutely detrimental to the lives and careers of certain people, including Prince Andrew, man, you wouldn't see me. Good Lord, no. These people are powerful. They have a lot of clout in the world. And showing her little girl holding a puppy. Sure, we don't see her face. But my goodness, if it had been me and I'm blowing the whistle on some very powerful people, nobody would even know I had children, much less ever see them. It seems like the participant victim line is blurred, in my opinion. I'm outside looking in just like everybody else. Not to be a broken record, I do know that Epstein and all of these people that she did list are heavily involved in some nasty stuff, truly. And if you know anything about me or my channel, you know I'm not a royal fan, especially when it comes to Sarah and Prince Andrew. In my wildest dreams, I never thought this would be a video that I would be making. Saying all of that to say this, I have discovered the picture that started everything seems to be bogus. I'm not a professional, but I can even see things now that I've ran it through, this program, and it pointed certain things out. Now I can see exactly what to look for. A really good friend of mine suggested, hey, why don't you do me a favor and run, that picture in that program? I'm curious to see what comes out of it. And I'm going to tell you, my jaw hit the ground. I couldn't get back to her quick enough and let her know what I had found out. Over the years, I've used several different programs to determine, hey, is this picture photoshopped? Is this, authentic? Is this fake? And this one, I'm relatively new with it. However, I've used it long enough that I believe I have the gist of it. And because I just, thought, well, maybe I'll have a few opinions to back up my own opinion, I ran it past, 3 other people, and they came up with the same exact thing that I came up with. This thing has been absolutely constructed. You can see behind his head that there is a square line directly behind his head. When you drag and drop, a cropped head to fit a body or even the entire picture, there's an edge there. If you don't clean it up, it's going to be noticeable unless you can blend it in with the background. And just looking at the picture, head on, it totally blends in. And just looking at the, picture head on, you can see a little bit of her hand on his back. But when you run it through this program and it lifts, that hand is gone. It's gone. There are so many discrepancies in this picture. I would have never believed it in 1,000 years, because this is the picture that has caused so many problems for the royal family. Now, one thing I did notice in his sit-down interview was that he said, yes, that's me, and I don't remember that picture ever being taken. I can't tell you who took it. I can't tell you how it even came to be. But one thing I can tell you for sure is I've never been upstairs in Ghislaine Maxwell's house. Totally acknowledges that he's been in her house. He absolutely doesn't deny that's him in the picture. But he's never been upstairs. He was adamant he had never been upstairs. And I couldn't figure, I thought, you liar. You ain't nothing but a dang liar. I remember saying that. And to this day, I'm not dismissing Prince Andrew's involvement in anything at all. That's not what I'm here for. I'm sure he partied plenty with these people. Trust and believe. Nor am I trying to, misjudge Virginia Roberts being a victim. I'm sure she was a victim in some way in all of this mess. All I'm going to say is I would have never believed in a million years that this picture was a fraud, but it turns out to be completely bogus, in my opinion. I'm not a professional. If you are a professional out there, take the picture and you research it. You run it through your programs and you come back to me. If I'm wrong, let me know I'm wrong, please. I just, I'm not trying to let Prince Andrew off the hook. God, if you know me, you know better. I'm sure that Virginia Roberts feels like a victim. That's her prerogative, her life. She lived it. I didn't. I just find issue with some parts of her story, and we all, have different emotions and we handle them different ways. And since discovering these flaws in this picture, I'm going to tell you, I believe in my own honest opinion that there's a lot more to this story that only the major players know. I don't think we know what we think we know, nor do I think we'll ever know, truly. And as somebody that has survived incestual sexual abuse and a grisly rape that took my virginity and turned my entire world for a loop. I can tell you, I feel like my words should be strong enough when going to authorities. I don't have to construct something bogus to present as evidence. I feel like my statement, my words should be powerful enough. I'll see y'all soon and we'll talk much faster. Please stay safe and be blessed.